For the past few years in fantasy football, the wide receiver has been king. The prevalence of stacking in best ball and the importance of the wide receiver position in dynasty leagues has made people lean into the fact that early on in their drafts, they need to be targeting wide receivers. But if you go back just a few years, particularly when I started fantasy football about 8-9 years ago, people would just hammer running backs early on in their draft. And it was really seen that you needed to be getting at least 2 in the first 3 rounds. When you take a look last season, the top scoring running backs were outperforming the top scoring wide receivers. So is that starting to flip? And do we need to be starting to take running backs way more seriously than we take wide receivers? Now obviously this is going to differ a little bit in PPR and half PPR leagues depending on the structure of your leagues, the amount of flexes, the amount of receivers you have to start, but in a standard start 2 running back, start 2 wide receiver, tight end in a flex league, I want to have a look and see which of these strategies you need to be focusing on. So, in this video, I'm going to be using FantasyPros Mock Draft Simulator to draft a hero wide receiver team, where I draft 1 wide receiver early and then wait late down the board to start taking my next picks at receiver. Then, a hero running back team, where I draft an early running back and then wait a long time to take another, both from the same spot, from the 6th spot in the draft. And at the end, I'm going to compare the 2 and see which one I prefer. If you like content like this, please consider liking and subscribing. But let's get into it with the first team. And I'm going to start off with a hero wide receiver build, which is a little bit of a unique one. So here we are, like I said, drafting from the 6th spot, kicking off with hero wide receiver. And you can see the players that have gone ahead of me. So actually, only 3 running backs, 2 receivers have gone. At this spot, we're going to start off with CeeDee Lamb. He is who I would be quite happy to take at this point, but kicking off with Lamb, and then we are going to wait a long time until we start to build the next receiver into our team. So now you see we have Jonathan Taylor, we have Bucky Irving. We could even wait a little bit and potentially look towards George Kittle. I actually think getting an early tight end or quarterback would be a nice strategy here, but really I want to build on those strong running backs. If we're lacking depth at wide receiver, we need to be making sure that we're making up for it elsewhere. So I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor. We see a fair few options go off the board. Trey McBride is there. James Cook is there. Trey McBride would be really interesting to me. Do I feel a need to push there and to push a running back? Could I potentially wait and take some of these in the 4th round? I think probably with the need I'm going to have. No, do you know what? Let's go with Trey McBride. Let's take Trey McBride because I like getting him in the 3rd. We'll see what running backs come back. So we really want to start quite heavily with that running back position. We're going to follow that up here. Terry McLaurin, sorry, we are not taking you, but we do have Kenneth Walker, Chuba Hubbard, Alvin Kamara, James Conner. So I think here, even though ADP is Kenneth Walker, I'm really interested in Alvin Kamara. The draft wizard here would say I could wait a little bit and take him, but I'm going to take him now because I'm quite happy with him as my RB2. Travion Henderson went 1 spot beforehand, which is a shame, but at the end of the day, that's the game that you play here. So Jameson Williams, Patrick Mahomes, Xavier Worthy. Quarterback could be of interest relatively soon, but I am going to take another back. So David Montgomery, RJ Harvey, Tony Pollard. David Montgomery's a pick at ADP, but I'm going to go with RJ Harvey because I love the talent there, and we are really shooting for upside with this draft. So currently at ADP, Isaiah Pacheco, I'm not a huge fan of looking towards that. Unfortunately, a lot of the quarterbacks did go, but we do have Dak Prescott potentially as the next quarterback on the board. So this would be a little bit of a reach of him. Maybe we could push it to the next round. Maybe it's a little bit early, but maybe we'll just take Dak in the 6th and stack him with CeeDee Lamb when it's the pick that FantasyPros seems to like with this engine here. So let's stack Dak with CD. Then let's see where we start coming back to. So for some reason, yeah, there you go. So we don't need a tight end. We're quite good there. Running back, it's a lot of reaches and players I'm not particularly a big fan of, but we do have 3 now. So I'm relatively happy to now start moving on to wide receiver. Tetairoa McMillan, I've no idea why he goes this late. If you've been watching me at all this off-season, you'll understand the same perspective as me, which is I think he's a league winner this year. I think he can finish as a top 10 wide receiver in his rookie season. So yeah, I mean, long story short, I'm going to be absolutely smashing that pick. So that is my wide receiver 2. This is a draft that I would be really happy with. Taking some of that depth at wide receiver later on down the board, pushing early running backs, but getting one elite pick in there. So Trey McBride as well as a really, really nice option. So again, wide receiver, we've got Chris Olave, we've got Rome Odunze. At running back, you're starting to dip off the board. So if you're waiting here at running back, Cam Scatterby or Ray Davis, I'm not a huge fan of taking those players here. So let's go with Rome Odunze and let's start looking towards the next round. So we currently have 3 wide receivers, 3 running backs, a tight end, and a quarterback. So maybe here we continue to load up at running back. Maybe we'll look for wide receiver. With the depth starting to go off the board, I'm quite happy to go with Rachaad White, who I think probably would be the pick here. I do quite like, obviously these are all backups, but I wrote up for DLF recently how I quite like Rachaad White this season. If I'm honest with you, I can see some of the reasons why people might not be, but I think he's really one injury away. And also, I think he has a really defined role pass catching. So I am actually very interested in Rachaad White. Long story short, that's the way we're going to go here. And then looking towards the next round, we probably want to be taking another wide receiver just to round things out. And Emeka Egbuka is a lovely, lovely pick here. I would be really happy to get him. We have a bench of 6, so we do still have a few rounds left to go. Maybe we'll start looking towards that quarterback 2 or that tight end 2 relatively soon. Caleb Williams, it does think is the pick here. I won't be taking Chris Godwin because I got Emeka Egbuka. Caleb Williams does stack with Rome Odunze, who we did take, so maybe we go with Caleb Williams alongside Dak Prescott. That's quite a nice little pairing there. Let's go with Caleb Williams. Then I think we need another running back. Maybe we'll look towards a tight end too, but we did take an early tight end, so I think I'll probably leave that. The other running backs available, not particularly exciting to me. Of these, I think we'll probably look towards Roschon Johnson, just because I think he probably has the highest upside given the offense and given that it's only really DeAndre Swift ahead of him. So Roschon Johnson there, and then this is the team that we have finished up with. So you can see the team here. Starting off, we have Dak Prescott, Jonathan Taylor and Alvin Kamara, CeeDee Lamb, Tetairoa McMillan, and Trey McBride. And then on the bench, we have RJ Harvey, Rome Odunze, Rachaad White, Emeka Egbuka, Caleb Williams, and Roschon Johnson. I actually think that's a really nice team, and we didn't take another wide receiver until quite late on into the draft, and I think Tetairoa McMillan is probably someone that I think should be going a lot higher than this, but he doesn't seem to, so we're quite happy to take the value according to Fantasy Pros ADP. This is a team I'd be really happy with, so let's get onto that hero running back team and see if it can compete with this. I think it's really going to struggle. Here we go again. So like I said, we're going to be doing hero running back this time. So even though CeeDee Lamb is still there, we need to be looking elsewhere, and that might mean it's a little bit of a reach. Looking at ADP at the minute, the experts seem to like Derrick Henry as the pick in this spot, but I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey. That is absolutely the upside pick, and that is going to make such a fragile build for our running back room, because we are looking at someone who is, the entire team is going to be built around Christian McCaffrey, and yes, he could finish at running back 1 overall, but he also could miss the majority of the season, so it's going to be super, super fragile. If I was taking CMC, if I was just drafting personally, I'd probably want to build quite a robust running back room around him, but that is not the experiment we are doing today. So let's take CMC, and then let's focus on those other positions and see who we end up with. So obviously, The computer really likes taking Jonathan Taylor here around ADP, but we are not going to be doing that. We're going to be looking towards the wide receiver position, and there are some really nice picks here. So AJ Brown, Lad McConkey, Mike Evans, T. Higgins. AJ Brown is absolutely going to be the pick for me here, but I can see why some people would like Lad McConkey. I am a little bit lower on him, so AJ Brown as my wide receiver 1, I'm really happy with. Then we start to look, so Jaden Daniels, James Cook and Warren Hampton. I'd love to draft them here, but I am going to have to wait until at least like the 6th or 7th round to take my next running back. When you look across the wide receivers, so Mike Evans is suggested as the pick here, or Tyreek Hill. I actually have JSN and Devontae Adams over both of them, so my top ranked wide receiver would be Jackson Smith and Jigba here, so he is going to be the selection. We have some really nice options available. I think I'm going to end up liking the hero running back team more than the hero wide receiver one, just because I love building with early wide receivers, although getting Tetairoa McMillan quite early was quite nice as well. Marvin Harrison Jr., Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore. So this is a little bit more uncertain, so maybe we start to look towards someone else, but Sam Laporta doesn't really interest me. He's been injured, currently in training camp, and that's a few seasons in a row. Let's go with the sheer upside pick here, which is Marvin Harrison Jr. So this team is going to be incredibly fragile, but there's definitely a chance that if everything hits, this could really pay off. Now, there are some nice running backs here: David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Patrick Mahomes, Tony Pollard. Obviously, a lot of the quarterbacks still available, but if we know fancy pros, these will fly off the board in the next round or so. But actually, I'm going to push things another round because there's some really nice wide receivers still here. So I'm going to push with Xavier Worthy, giving me my wide receiver 4 and a really strong core. Now, as much as I would love to keep taking wide receivers here, I'm going to now start to pivot elsewhere. And we have Kyler Murray, who is a really nice selection here. At running back, I'm going to push that for another round because I want to see how fragile this gets and whether or not this is something we could reasonably do. So I'm going to push that a bit. Tight end, there are some options as well. I don't hate taking Mark Andrews here, to be honest with you. TJ Hockenson, also another option. But I think let's take Mark Andrews. No, do you know what? No. It's interesting because I could edit around this, but I'm not going to. Let's take Kyler Murray. He's stacked with Marvin Harrison Jr. He is a nice option even on his own because of that rushing floor, so it brings a lot of upside to the team. It still keeps it fragile because obviously Kyler isn't the most elite fantasy asset, but I really like the idea of it. So let's take Kyler Murray. Let's see how that starts to shape the team out. Now we probably do need to start looking at running back. Travis Etienne, I really don't like. Tank Bigsby, Javonte Williams, Zach Charbonnet. I would probably have Zach Charbonnet here, but maybe we'll look towards Mark Andrews and maybe we push it another round. Let's really, really push this hero running back build and load up on running backs really late on. So let's take Mark Andrews, and now we have to be taking running back. So Cam Scatterboo is the top rated running back here, but we are really looking at running at backups here. So maybe I shouldn't have pushed it that last round. You can see the amount of running backs that went just above us. So Tank Bigsby, Najee Harris, Quinshon Judkins, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson, Zach Charbonnet, J.K. Dobbins. So we are forced with Cam Scatterboo as our RB2. We are going to keep smashing running backs because if you don't have quality, you need to be getting depth. I'm really happy with the wide receiver position. I'm happy with quarterback. I'm quite happy with Mark Andrews at tight end. Maybe we will take another to round things out, but we'll see. Rashad White, again, for the same reasons as earlier, is going to load in here. And then potentially I might look at taking Austin Eckler. There have been rumours in the last couple of days that Brian Robinson is a cut candidate or a trade candidate, and I know people are talking about Bill Krosky-Merritt, previously Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, but apparently likes to go by Bill. So I think Eckler could be an interesting opportunity here. Algier, obviously a pure backup, but a more exciting one. But let's go with Austin Eckler. And then I think we only have 2 picks left, so the team is looking interesting at the moment. We'll have a little bit of review in a minute. Maybe we take a tight end too. Maybe let's go with, do you know what, let's try and nail that room and hope that Brian Robinson ends up missing time or ends up being cut, and let's go with Bill Krosky-Merritt. So that'll probably do us at running back. Then let's close things off with maybe another wide receiver, maybe Kyle Pitts, maybe a backup quarterback. let's go with another tight end to close things off. So we've got a little bit of stability in Mark Andrews. Let's close things off with Kyle Pitts. So that is our team, and I thought I was really going to prefer the hero running back team, but I hate the way this team looked. I pushed running back far too late. So we have Kyler Murray at quarterback, then at running back we have CMC, Cam Scatterboo, we have Rachaad White, Austin Eckler, and Bill Krosky-Merritt. That is such a fragile group. Now, there is a lot of upside, particularly across the two rookies, but there is real risk there in that room. Obviously, the wide receiver room is really nice. AJ Brown, JSN, Marvin Harrison Jr., Xavier Worthy, and then we have Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts at tight end. But I don't know necessarily that the running backs or that the wide receivers make up for the loss at running back. So I'm not necessarily sure that I'm happy between these two. So I am going to throw up both teams here. And I think it's really interesting. I was really anticipating liking the one where I went really heavy on wide receiver early, but I actually really preferred the earlier running back team. And I think that's because the depth at wide receiver this year is much better than it has been in previous years. So for me to take CeeDee Lamb early, and then wait all the way until the 6th round for Tetairoa McMillan. I know his ADP is creeping up in some sites, but Fantasy Pros Mock Draft Simulator had him available there. There are loads of receivers available quite late on down the board who I'm happy with as my wide receiver too. Whereas running back, by waiting that long, and I know CMC did make it a bit more of a fragile build than maybe I was looking for, but because I pushed running back that late down the board, it just felt so unstable. This is the kind of team where, yeah, there's league winning upside, but the floor could bottom out so easily. Compound that with the fact that I managed to get an early tight end and a stack on the other team, and I think it's quite obvious to me which one I'm going to be doing this off-season. Let me know down below in the comments which of these two teams you prefer, and let me know if there's a particular strategy that you are looking to take into your drafts this weekend. Thanks so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.